Hey everyone, got my COVID beard going on, nice and full and fluffy, 'cause that's what you do. Anyways, I've taken a little bit of a break from painting. Kind of need to get some motivation back in, so I figured I'd throw together a solo game. I'm gonna play some Age of Reason, since that's what I have miniatures for. So I set up the battlefield and I got a hold of a couple friends, and they're going to write out the general um, battle plans for each army, and then I'm going to kind of solo play out their broad battle plans. So here, let me show you what we got, if I can figure out how to turn this damn thing around. So here we are looking at the battlefield. Scenario I'm playing is out of the Volume 2 Age of Reason supplement book. It's the yellow book. This is the Battle of Campo Santo, northern Italy, in February 1743 during the War of the Austrian Succession. On this side, we have Spanish troops, and mainly I picked this one because I wanted to play with my Spanish miniatures that I painted that haven't been able to play with. I mean, we've used them as stand-ins for other armies, but haven't actually been able to really use them as Spain. So I was like, you know what, I want to do a battle with them. I did have enough miniatures to do everything except for the light infantry. I needed to borrow a second light infantry unit. And I didn't have to borrow, that's my buddy's French Guard unit. I didn't have to borrow the French Guard unit. I had enough infantry to use that one. But because that brigade is supposed to be the Spanish Guard Brigade, I wanted to use painted Guard units. So I went ahead and borrowed the French Guard because it looks like the Spanish Guard. So there's the Spanish Guard there that I painted up. There's the French Guard there that my buddy painted up. And this one in the middle was painted up as Spanish Marines. But because they all look pretty close, all the same, they're being Spanish Guards today. So, and then I had to borrow that light unit of French right there. But otherwise, this is all the Spanish army that I painted. And we are fighting against the Austrians and Piedmont Sardinians, of which I didn't have any of those miniatures here at my house. We do have Austrian miniatures, but I don't have them here. But I did have the Prussian and Russian miniatures, so they are standing in today. So the Austrians are being played by the Prussians, even though they're not going to get the fancy Prussian rules. These are all going to be played as, these are going to be played as Austrians. And then the Piedmont Sardinians are being played by the Russians. And then same with the Cav over there. So I got two Cuirassiers, even though that's a Prussian Cuirassier and Russian Cuirassier. Those are Austrian Cuirassiers. And then Prussian Dragoon and Russian Horse Grenadiers are playing the part of Piedmontese Dragoons. So Battle of Campo Santo, I figure what I'm going to do is I'll kind of record after every turn. And since I am playing the solo, I'm going to change a couple of things. First things first, I've got broad orders for each side, so I'm going to try to follow those as best as one could as the battle progresses, or at least the spirit of the orders. But movement's going to be simultaneous, and I'm gonna borrow some ideas from different rule sets. So like, I'm going to borrow kind of the order system, very loosely borrow the order system and movement from ESR, in that you give them an order. In this case, mostly it's going to be advance. I might give like the brigade in the rear in order to, support, or reserve, probably support. But basically, when units move, they will move their absolute full distance. um, except they cannot close closer than close range unless they've been given a charge order, in which case the charge order would be to, charge, basically. So they'll move their full distance, and then wherever they stop in a turn, if two units are stopped and they're within musketry range of each other, regardless of where they are in that envelope of musketry range, as long as they're within a musketry range with each other, they will automatically fire. Same with artillery. If they're in artillery range, the artillery will automatically fire. Kind of helps speed things up. Also, in that context, it makes sense if you think about it. Units, their job is to shoot the bad guys, and if the bad guys are in range, they're going to shoot. They're not going to fiddle fart around. They're just going to shoot. So, I suppose these units are within 2 movements of each other, 2.5 movements of each other. So I think if both sides make a full move forward, they'll be starting to shoot each other within the second turn. So that's just broadly how I'm going to handle movement, just to kind of make things easier on me. I'm just going to move everybody at the same time instead of brigade moves. Secondly, I'm going to combine artillery and musket shooting all at the same time, so they're all going to do all their shooting at the same time. And then with that will also mean that at the end of the turn, morale will be one singular phase at the end of the turn, except for if there's any charge declarations, morale associated with charge declarations will be done at that time. Otherwise, all morale checks for being shot at and all that stuff will be done at the end of the turn. And also for melee, I'm going to change. I'm thinking I might change things up a little bit. Instead of doing a roll and then adding the difference of casualties to each side and then doing a die roll for that, I'm thinking of doing something where the loser of the melee makes a morale check. And depending on whether or not they pass or fail, will determine whether or not they outright rout or fall back, broken, or disorganized. But they'll fall back. What status they end up with, I haven't quite figured out yet. But I figured do some kind of morale check with like a -2 penalty for, failing the melee, and then the winner of the melee, becomes disorganized. Might have the option to pursue. Do an option to pursue if they want, where the disorganization doesn't apply, but otherwise, they have a disorganized status on them. Something like that. We'll see how it plays out. If it gets to the point, it's just very loosey-goosey, just thinking off the top of my head. So, but anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get this started. We'll see how things go. And also, I think that's it. So we'll just take it from there. So, Austrian, Piedmontese, Sardinia versus Spain. Ooh, here we go. Let's see who wins. All right, here we are at the end of turn 1. So basically the Spanish army, the command was this brigade that was over here. Basically this side of the field to advance and pin this side, delay for a few turns, and then advance with that. So we'll see if there's any delays getting those ordered up. The Austrians, basically command was to get all the infantry online and then advance. So there will be an advance eventually. So we did have a charge in here, and I did the same charge rules, but I kind of went with different charge result rules. I decided to borrow the charge results from how the basically tricorn works. So basically what I did was the Spanish charged in, they won the charge, causing the Austrian hussars to make a morale check. They had I gave them a -2 penalty for losing the charge. Um, and with all their stuff, they were rolling one die, and they needed a 6 to pass. And on one die, taking all the modifiers into effect, they rolled a 6. So they hold and fight another melee. So cavalry, if the loser passes, they take basically they fight again. So basically on this next turn, this cavalry unit's going to come in on the flank and join in on the charge. I think, maybe what I'll do is, I don't think it wouldn't have mattered for the penalties. The Austrian Hussars were going to get a -1, or they were only going to be rolling one die on the morale check anyways. But I do wonder if instead it should be a -1 die for each turn of continuous combat. So like the first turn, roll a -1 die for losing, and then if they lose the second time, then it's a -2 dice instead of doing -2 up front. Whatever, work in progress. I don't think it would have made a difference in this regard. I think adding up all the dice, they passed, so they couldn't have gotten better than a pass because the pass causes them to continue the fight. A fail means they would have routed. So, it wouldn't affect this situation because they passed. This artillery fired in on the Spanish artillery charge again. They got a hit, but the charging cavalry withstood it and charged home. This guy has a disorder for a bleaking over half move, as do these two guys here, trying to get him online. Heavy artillery across the way was in range, long range, so they did shoot, causing one casualty, but he also passes morale checks. So, with that, yeah, basically how this started is this was a charge and then a counter charge. They didn't charge into each other. So these guys charged, these guys passed the morale check and then counter charged in. So that's it for turn 1. Moving on to turn 2. All right, here we are at the end of turn 2. Yeah, shouldn't be surprised. Those Hussars got shellacked and broke and ran. Spanish moved up close enough range for shooting, but since they moved too far, they couldn't shoot this turn. Got these guys, or this artillery shot against him, but he's kind of doing counter battery stuff. And then got some heavy artillery. This is siege artillery doing some plinking across the way, and vice versa for that heavy gun plinking over here. So basically, this is the turn. On turn 3, I was told the main Spanish line would advance, and then the Austrians, I was told, once we had a line formed up, they would advance to you. So this is the turn. Units are going to try to advance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll 2d6 for each brigade, because they're essentially having a hold order right now. And for every full foot, those of you who play ESR, this might sound familiar, for every full foot away from the main commander, it'll be a -1 to that die roll, although I'll add the main commander's modifier. So this guy is a +3 for everything, +2 for melee. So, like here he's over a foot away, so it'll be, +3 -1 for being over a foot, so it'll be 2d6 +2. This guy's inside a foot, so it'll be just the 2d6 +3. And then I have to measure this. I'm pretty sure it's not 2 feet, but it'll probably it's at least 1 foot, so I'm pretty sure it'll be a 2d6 +2. If they get a 7 or greater, they'll advance. If they don't, then they won't. They'll hold. These guys are just getting into a scrum. Probably the cavalry hold and reorganize. This infantry, light infantry, is pretty much holding the town. There's not much that cavalry can do against that. But this guy's they got to start thinking about that flank. So this guy might get shifted out. So we'll see what's going to happen. Anyways, I'll catch you at the end of turn. All right, here we are at the end of turn 3. This artillery turn fired on him, did some damage, but that unit, he's got a high morale grade, so he still stood and held his ground. These guys exchanged fire back at 4th. Infantry all moved up, well, almost all the infantry. This brigade failed its check. The rear brigade and support failed its check. 2 cav brigades failed their checks, and that brigade did not. He made it, so he advanced a little bit. I think what I'm going to do, because obviously, naturally, this unit's going to want to immediately check this turn again. So I think what I'm going to do is, because it failed its last turn, I think I'm going to apply a -1 penalty to that check. Just so, you know, it's just like, yeah, you know, you advanced with no whatever. So I'm going to try. So if they fail to check, they get a -1 penalty. So to mitigate that, you could either attach a unit to get them to go. You could move a commander closer. You know, maybe get rid of some of those penalties that are causing the penalties to accrue. Whatever, something like that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm just kind of winging it there, so whatever. But anyway, so that's the end of turn 3. Again, this is only going for 8 turns. I think we're going to get to the point now where, you know, casualties are going to start racking up. This is a bit of a sticky wicket here. Not exactly sure how I'm going to go. I mean, realistically, I should have withdrawn those guys, but I forgot. So I think maybe this turn, that's what they'll do. Is they're going to withdraw and regroup. These guys are kind of covering the town for all intents and purposes. There's not much to do with them except be a distraction. So yeah, basically try to get this guy to re-roll. Try to get those guys to re-roll. This guy is, you know, who knows. That's basically where they want to stay. That's where they want to stay. They just want to move it to cover the flank of the infantry. These guys kind of wanted to do the same, but they lost the initiative. So they're just having a standoff because they don't want to engage. They want to cover it. It's really not much for them to do. So looks like it's going to be mostly an infantry scrum from here on out, unless something cracks. So we'll see for sure. But I'll check you after turn 4. After the end of turn 4. See all by the cotton smoke, the engagement has come to pass. That rear Spanish brigade still couldn't get them to come up into support. What I'm doing is they are every time they miss a turn, they fail an activation on that turn, they get a -1 penalty. I think I might have mentioned that. This is their second turn of failing an activation. So next turn, they can either just sit for a turn and clear the penalties, or they could try again, at which point it would be a -2. And this is a real question to ask because that Spanish line unit right there routed because they don't have any rear support, and they're running away. This battery over here breaking and abandoning their guns. And then on this side over here, after a big wallop from the Spanish Guard, that unit right there is breaking and running. So that might be the thing to do. I don't know. I might have to go against the wishes of the players who made the battle plan. Not like it matters what they think anyways, haha, because, you know, I'm playing the game. But whatever. But, I mean, it does make sense that these guys are breaking, so these guys would charge at least the cavalry to try to clear that out. Because, I mean, they're not doing anything. Or at least these guys maybe try to charge to clear the cavalry out. That probably seems. So I'll give them, unfortunately, their commanders over here. I don't know. It's kind of part of the thing of thinking ahead. You got to think ahead to figure out where you want your commanders to go, because that's going to be a -3 at the very least. -3 to probably, I'm guessing, to get that guy to charge. That guy to charge would be a little bit better. It's a minus, you know, it's going to be at least a -2 though. So I could try to put him on attack order. I'll try to put him on attack order, see what happens. But the crux being, these are Piedmontese cavalry, and we don't know what their morale status is. So the moment they got to make a morale check, I have to roll a die to see if what morale grade they are. If it's a 1, 2, or 3, they're morale grade 1. 4 or 5, morale grade 2, and if there's a natural 6, they're morale grade 3. So they've got a pretty good chance of being crappy cavalry, which historically they were. So, and I'm also doing another thing, more than anything, because I wanted to see all the smoke in, because it looks pretty sweet. But since I'm running the morale at the end of the turn as the very last thing, except for, you know, army withdrawal checks, it makes sense then that the movement that results from a failed morale check would occur in the next turn. So that would be the first thing to move, would be all of the required retrograde moves, and any interpenetration penalties and all that stuff apply immediately and carry through. So like these guys over here, you know, there's not enough room for them to get around, so they're going to burst through that unit there, so that unit's going to become disorganized. But, you know, he'll move up, all that stuff. And again, because the other guy in front of him will be able to shoot back at him, he's only going to move up to that normal range, so 6 inches away from the enemy. Kind of making it up as I go. It seems to make sense. That's what I did there. These guys didn't close all the way because the opponents could shoot at them, so they stopped at a range in which they could shoot back. If they wanted to move closer, they'd need to get probably an assault order to try to close it. And then they'd test to see if they could charge, and if they fail, then they can move up to close range. Yeah, that seems like a reasonable rule to do. Kind of making it up on a fly. It's totally making sense in my mind right now. So that's what we got. These guys, they'll reorganize, put themselves in a position to support. So yeah, gotta get these guys up. Gotta get these guys moving up. And I don't know. I mean, I've got a sub-commander. I could probably have the sub-commander move up to attach. But, I mean, this guy's at a -2 anyways. Yeah, so it doesn't matter. It's going to be a wash whether the army commander does it or if the sub-commander attaches. Although over here, to get those cavalry moving on the other side during the movement phase, I could probably move the sub-commander over and then do that. So... we'll see. We'll see. All right, I'll see you at the end of turn 5. These guys reordered over here. The cavalry, this infantry's kind of moving up. This light infantry is moving up to kind of keep that light infantry occupied, even though pretty much these guys are. I'm not going to worry about these guys very much anymore. Rest of the formed infantry is moving up around the flank, so causing those guys to pull back. Shots still shooting across the way. Did finally get that brigade in the back to move up. Um, things are slowly starting to get whittled down. These guys run up. Got the Spanish cavalry to charge. The Austrian cavalry and the Piedmontese cavalry passed the morale check to hold their ground, so they countercharged. The Piedmontese dragoons did roll for morale grade 1, so they're running morale grade 1. In the ensuing melee, they caused equal damage, and so no one had to make a morale check for the failed for losing the battle. So basically, next turn, the unit in the rear is just gonna run up and add weight to the basically an extra two dice into it. So that should put the benefit over onto the Spanish on that battle, but we'll see how it goes. Die rolls being what they are and all that. Otherwise, just keep plinking across. Numbers are getting whittled down. I haven't actually added up numbers, but no one is near. We're not anywhere near army withdrawal yet, so this will probably go the full 8 turns. It's ultimately, I think, going to be up to the cavalry battle, depending on how that goes, I think, because once you get the cavalry battle, then once that's decided, then that's going to give the other side free reign pretty much on everything. So, yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Turn 6. All right, here we are at the end of turn 6. Flank's kind of developing. Austrians are doing a good job of securing it at the very least, although artillery is going to be coming up to pound them here pretty quick. Had some interesting developments. This brigade had an order to advance, so we actually had 2 charges, but both of those got pushed back. The routed one and then the disordered one, so that the one in the rear moved up to keep it in line. Coming down the way, things are really starting to look pretty bleak in here. This unit has it's almost destroyed. Everybody else is getting whittled down. Definitely the being Spanish guards, morale grade 3 versus morale grade 2, that makes a big difference. Definitely a lot more staying power and able to dish out a lot more too. But over here, the cavalry charge, Spanish decisively won. Both sides are routing, both Austrian units are routing, and so the Spanish cavalry is going to pursue. So this next turn, these guys are going to need to make a morale check to see if they can stand the onslaught. Otherwise, this horde is just going to sweep over them. So that's going to be turn 7 when that happens. And I mean, at that point, I'm pretty close to carrying out to turn 8. Might as well go to turn 8. Don't know if I'll get to a point where an army is going to break. I'm going to get close. The Austrians are definitely closer than the Spanish. But just the way the numbers work out, I don't know if I'm going to have dice that requires... the Austrians did lose 1 artillery piece, so that's one factor going against them. So it's just going to depend on how these next couple of turns turn out. This brigade is out of shooting range, so they're going to go back onto a hold order. So they're going to have to do another order to try to move forward. These units, they're just getting chewed up. I mean, on both sides, really. But if the cavalry doesn't hold over here, especially the second line, if they fold and run, they might have a chance if they are able to get into melee and hold tight. But if not, then I think it'd be pretty safe to say, even if an army doesn't break at turn 8, at the end of turn 8, it'd be pretty safe to say that the Austrians would yield the field and give the victory to the Spanish and control of northern Italy. But that's yet to be determined. We have 2 turns to play through, so we'll see what happens. All right, end of turn 7. So, yeah, a lot of just kind of shooting along here, starting to tire out. This will be the last turn. Amazingly, so yeah, that one Dragoon unit routed, but they charged, and he lost the charge. The Cuirassier unit lost the charge, but he passed the morale check on 1 die rolling a natural 6. Just kind of the thing. It's something I do. I roll natural 6s on those sorts of things. Looks like I'm going. I have a feeling we might be getting pretty close to the. Let's see, let me count up the Austrian numbers. Sorry, do that. 12. 76. So actually, we do have to roll for army withdrawal. And right now, end of turn 7. Actually, this might be it because they've got a captured battery, captured colors from destroying that cav, so that's 2. And then every routing unit, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Austria has to roll a 6 dice, getting basically less than the 12. Which, I mean, we know that's not gonna happen. But hey, stranger things. So this could be it. Oh yeah, they're done. There's 5, 9, 10, 11. I mean, there's 12 right there. So yeah, they exceeded 12. So Spain wins. Spain wins the Battle of Campo Santo. Pretty heavy, pretty brutally. Again, it came down to the charges over here, I think, is really kind of what set it over. So, yeah, I'm glad I looked at that. See how many Spanish casualties they had. They had 56, so they they still had a little ways to go before they got serious losses, but they were going to be getting close. They've got a lot of units that are getting to 50% and all that, so it was just a matter of time. And here's the Prussian numbers here. So yeah. So there we go. Spain wins. Here's the last look at the battlefield. All the smoke as the Austrian and Piedmont Sardinian army decided to call it quits. Anyways, I had fun. I actually give you here a second. I'll set up, take the last couple photos of the table, and kind of give you my final thoughts. So, yeah, I think the battle went pretty good. My little house rules, I'm going to have to write these down because I kind of liked how they worked. You know, there's little nuances to kind of, you know, little crooks to get ironed out, but I think for the most part it seems to work pretty good. You know, granted, I didn't make them up out of thin air. They you know, kind of got some ideas from other games that I've played and been around. So it seems to make things flow really nicely. It gives in this, you know, the command, you know, the making the command rolls to get each brigade to activate, you know, to do whatever it is you want to do. That adds a nice little friction, a little bit of tension, especially there with the Spanish, that's 3rd Spanish Brigade refusing to move up, and so it's kind of leaving their buddies in a lurch. But you know, so that was nice. I kind of like doing the making a morale check for after a melee fight. That seems to work pretty good. Although I think I did have one melee that it ended up being that they both had an equivalent amount of casualties, and so I just treated that as, you know, neither side had to make a morale check, and it continued. So, you know, I don't know if that's something that we want to look at, adjusting how the melees are fought to take those kind of things into consideration to see if, you know, you just want to have a decisive where you have to make a morale check. But I do like the concept of making the morale check. That seems to flow pretty good, and it seems to have decisive results, that I, you know, in my mind, you would want a melee to have. You know, one side's going to crumple and fall, so and that seems to produce that. So that seemed to work out pretty good. You know, and there were some where they did pass the melee check, so you know that's going to happen, and it happened. It happened twice on one, rolling one die 2 times, needing a 6 to pass the check, and I got a 6 on both times. So, you know, I guess when my dice are hot, my dice are hot. But everything else, I mean, you know, the little nuances that I did, I enjoyed it. I think they worked out pretty good. Especially doing solo play. You know, maybe playing with other people, stuff that you don't need to do, but you know, doing solo play, especially like the command and control stuff, it definitely adds a little friction into it that makes things exciting. So, anyways, but yeah, that's it. It was a fun battle. Thanks for coming along, and I'll take a couple photos of the battlefield one last time before picking it up, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks.